Guys, I'm gonna record a video about ranking the UFC divisions from worst to the best ones. And my criteria might be something that you might not actually agree with. Obviously, it's my own sort of criteria that I'm assessing the situation, the divisions based on. So, according to my criteria, I'm gonna look at how many stars the division has, because I think that matters a lot, and how many prospects the division has, and how many former champions the division has. And if I need to look at the skill level of the division at the end, maybe just the top five fighters, because I don't think I'm going to be able to look at the skill level of like top 15 and compare it with each other. So maybe the skill level of the division if needed, and then the number of people in the number of fighters from that division in the pound for pound rankings. I think that would matter a lot as well. So I'm gonna start with the worst division that I think in the UFC is. Obviously, my assessment might be something that you completely disagree with. There's different ways that you're looking at it. And even for me, it was kind of difficult when I was actually going through the division to actually be able to rank them in order, because there's so many factors. You're looking at the different factors and you're like, okay, this division's rich in that factor, but then it's lacking in the other area. So I think to me the worst division is the heavyweight division, because they just lack skill a lot. So I'm gonna look at the number of former champions in the heavyweight division. Okay, so they have Tom Aspinall as a former champion. I'm gonna count him as a champion. We know he's an interim champion, but I'm gonna count him as a champion, and I'm gonna count Cyril Gane as a champion as well, just for the sake of the video, because he was an interim champion previously. So we had two champions. So we had two former champions in the heavyweight division. And how many stars do we have? How many stars? Like, and the way I'm going to count the stars, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be stars in the ring. Even if they have like podcast, or they have like a big fan base following outside, I think that will matter a lot as well, because people actually pay attention, tune in to watch the fights of the guys who are like popular outside. So I'm going to value that as well, because I think that brings more value and more money to that division. So we have Tom Aspinall as a star. We know he's a big star in Britain. Cyril Gane, we know he's an established star in France. For the sake of the video, I'm gonna call Alexander Volkov a star as well. The guy has been around for like a while. His striking is really fun. So in the cage is actually quite fun to watch. Sergey Pavlovich, I might call, it's not a big star, but I might call him like somewhat of a star, because there was a time when he was knocking everybody out. And then Spirit guy, I'm not gonna call him a stars. Yeah, Derek Lewis. Maybe I would call Derek Lewis a star. Yeah, Derek Lewis, when he was knocking people out, like, he gets a big pop from the crowd every single time. And then you have Taito, who was obviously a big star in Australia. So I'm gonna say heavyweight division probably has 6 stars. So heavyweight division has like decent stars, I would say, because people love watching knockouts, and in heavyweights you mostly do get knockouts. So you do have guys who have just like one punch knockout power. But that's all they have. They don't have any skills. So if I compare the first top five of fighters of heavyweight division with top fives of any other division, I think they're probably gonna do worse. Like, if you look at Tom Aspinall is probably the only guy who's gonna do good. He's kind of like a complete fighter. Cyril Gane, very one dimensional. Alexander Volkov, you have very one. He's kind of a striker. He's learning how to grapple. His grappling is getting better, but I'm not going to call him a complete fighter. Sergey Pavlovich, very one dimensional. Curtis Blades, good grappler, but very one dimensional. And then if you're looking at the bottom of the division, like, you've got guys like Delima, Acosta. I don't see any of those guys becoming like champions. So if you're looking at the prospect, the way I'm going to look at the prospect might not necessarily mean that they just came to the UFC. It might also be the guys who've been competing in UFC for like a long, long time, but you could see them becoming champions. So maybe I'll change my vocabulary. Actually, I'm not going to call them a prospect. I can just call them the guys who could be potential UFC champions. Do I see anyone becoming the UFC champion? Other than Tom Aspinall, I don't see anyone actually becoming UFC champion. Throughout, if I go through the whole weight class, I just don't see. Tybura, no. Striker, he's got like okay grappling, but it's not good enough. I mean, if I look at the heavyweight division, most of the guys can't even grapple. Like, you can count them on the fingers, the guys who can grapple. Tom Aspinall is probably the guy who can grapple. Then you have Curtis Blades, but he's very one-dimensional grappler. Then you have Jalton Almeida. He can grapple a bit. Um, All of them are strikers. Delima can grapple, but I don't see him becoming a champion. Shamil Gaziv, no, he's not a like he tries to grapple, but he's not a good grappler. So I just think heavyweight division is probably the shallowest division. I'm gonna call it the worst division. And the second lost sorry the so that is the worst division, and the second worst division is, I'm gonna call it flyweight. I'm actually gonna surprise you people because flyweights are actually pretty skilled fighters, but they're lacking in some of the other departments. So first we're gonna look at how many former champions does the flyweight division has. So Brandon Moreno is the only former champion that the flyweight division has. They're lacking in former champions. How many stars does the division has? I'm gonna count Brandon Royal as a star. Man, I would love it if he actually becomes a champion. Like Brandon Royal is probably the only guy in flyweight who can actually talk shit. Like this guy, I don't know what he was saying. Like he was saying something about slapping holes and doing something. Yeah, this guy's funny actually. So Brandon Royal, I could see him if he becomes a champion. I could see him acting like Nate Diaz. So that him, and then you have Brandon Marino. I'm gonna call him a star. It's a big star in Mexico. Uh, Kai Kara France. I'm gonna call him a star. He's got nice knockouts. He can talk. Three. Tatsuro Taira. I'm gonna call him a star just based on his fighting style, and I think Manel Cap is probably on the verge of becoming a star. But other than that, they don't have any sort of stars. Kaya Sakura. I'm gonna call him a star. Kaya Sakura. Yeah, he has a big fan following outside. So, but other than that, how many prospects are we looking at in the flyweight division? So prospects, the people who I actually think, actually I'm not gonna call them prospects. People who can potentially become champions. I don't see Kai Kara France becoming a champion. Amir Albazi, I don't see him becoming a champion. He got fraud checked in the last fight. Tatsuro Taira. Tatsuro Taira is a guy that I can see becoming champion. I think Manel Kopp can do alright, but I don't think he's got enough grappling to actually be able to be Pantoja. Tatsuro Taira is one of the few guys that I can see doing something. And then, I mean, Dagir Ulenbekov, I think he might be able to do something. But I need to watch more of his fights. But he's got very good like grappling style. His striking is pretty decent as well, so I think he might have a chance, but it's gonna take a long time. So I think flyweight division is just they're just lacking basically. I mean the star power is alright, but even the stars that I mentioned, they're not like big stars, so they're probably lacking a bit of star power, and they're also lacking people who could become champions. Um, so they're lacking a lot of talent, I would say, and the former champions as well. Like they've only got one former champion. That's nothing. So, so flyweight is the second worst division to me. And I'm also going to look at the guys in the pound for pound. Sorry, I probably missed that for the heavyweight. So heavyweight had two guys in the pound for pound. You had John Jones and you had Tom Aspinall. So flyweight, we only have one person in the pound for pound, and that is Pantoja. Pantoja is a pound for pound in flyweight. And if you're looking at the top five flyweights in terms of like skill wise, Brandon Royal is now, I wouldn't call him like a complete fighter. It's a good he's got good grappling, but he doesn't have wrestling. He's got like his jiu-jitsu is all right on the ground. Once he's on the ground, he can play the game from the bottom, but it's not effective against the guys like Pantoja, let's say, who control him completely. And then his takedown defense is not the best. He got taken down by almost everyone. He was getting taken down by Tatsuro Taira a lot. So Brandon Royal, he's got okay striking. Brandon Moreno, I would say like one of the best guys in terms of like being a complete fighter. And then Amir Albazi, I don't think he's anywhere close as where he's ranked skill wise. Kaikara France, he is a beautiful striker. I think he just lacks a bit of grappling. And then Tatsuro Taira, I see him as becoming like a champion. I think he's a very good fighter. Tatsuro Taira, I would say, is he's a very complete fighter. But if I compare flyweight division to some of the other divisions in terms of skills, like if you compare the top five guys, I don't think flyweight is close to the divisions that I'm gonna rank really high, like bantamweight or like lightweight. I think those guys are gonna have a different skill. So yeah. The third worst division. So on number 7 you have. So on number 6 you have light heavyweight division. So light heavyweight division, if you're looking at the top five, other than the champion, um, how many former champions do we have? There's a lot of former champions in the light heavyweight division. So you have Yuri Prohaska, you have Jamal Hill, Jan Blachowicz. So you got three former champions in the light heavyweight division. And I mean, Dominic Reyes could have been a champion. They just robbed him of John Jones. So they got three former champions. So that's good. That's where the light heavyweight division is actually doing all right. But how many stars do they have? Um, I'm gonna call Ankalaev. I'm not gonna call Ankalaev actually a star because I don't think many people liked him. I don't think many people find his style interesting. I'm just gonna call him a guy who can become a champion. So that he's a guy for potentially becoming a champion. Prohaska, that's 1 star. I'm gonna call him a star. He had a couple of championship fights. I really love his style. Jamal Hill, he's got a podcast outside. I'm just gonna call him. He's a bit cringy sometimes, but I'm gonna call him a stars to two. Then you have Carlos Alberg is so fun to watch. I'm not gonna call him a star. I can call him a guy who can potentially become a champion because I see a lot of talent in him. Khalil Roundtree, I would call him a star 3. Um, Johnny Walker, I might call him a star. Yeah, pretty fun to watch. Dominic Reyes, I might call him a star 5. That's Anthony Smith. I would call him a star outside. So 5 to 6 stars. And then you have people who can actually become champion. You have Megaman and Kalaev. Very strong contender for actually becoming a champion. I could see him beating Alex Pereira. Might be a close fight. Alex has a chance to win, definitely. But I could also see Ankalaev just start wrestling, just turn into a wrestler. And then you have do I see Carlos Alberg becoming a champion? I do see Carlos Alberg becoming champion. I just want to see him against more people actually, because it could just be like a fraud check. Like he's been winning the fights, but he has to fight like some of the other gatekeepers to actually be able to find out if he's going to be uh like a top level guy. I mean, he's already ranked number 6, but I think the future fights that he's gonna have, they're gonna be hard fights. So whoever is fighting, they're gonna be in the top 5. So then we'll find out. Nikita Krylov, I think he's very talented. I just don't see him becoming a champion. Yeah, I don't see a lot of guys who have the potential to become a champion. I don't see. That's it. I mean, Azamat Mirzakhanov, I saw him when I watched him fight. He is pretty fast on his feet. Not a tall guy for the division. He's a bit stacky, but he's very powerful and he's very fast on his feet. The footwork is amazing. So I can definitely see him doing good, but at the moment, I think he needs to have like a couple of more fights to actually be able to prove me wrong. Uh, so yeah, I would probably say like 1 or 2 guys who have potential of becoming a champion. So light heavyweight, not very impressed. They have good star power. They have good former champions, but I think they're not. They don't have a lot of people who have the potential to become a champion. And also, I'm gonna check their top 5 guys skill wise. Megaman and Kalaev, I would call him one of the best fighters in the light heavyweight division. I think he's very complete. Jiri Prohaska, yes, he does have a grappling background, but I would call him like a more like a striker. So he mostly likes to strike, doesn't shoot for the takedowns. Jamal Hill doesn't shoot for the takedowns. Jan Blachowicz, he can grapple a little bit, black belt in jiu-jitsu, but he doesn't shoot for the takedowns. Alexander Rakic does not shoot for the takedowns. So I think skill wise, I think light heavyweight is pretty one dimensional. A little bit better than heavyweight, but pretty one dimensional. So I think flyweight was better skill wise than light heavyweight, but flyweight was lacking a bit of star power, I would say. And they didn't have a lot of former champions. Light heavyweight, I put them over flyweight because I think they have a lot of former champions and they have bigger stars than flyweight. Skill wise, they lack a lot of skills. They're pretty one dimensional. Then the next one we're gonna have, so light heavyweight at number 6, and then at number 5 comes middleweight. Number 5 comes middleweight, and middleweight. So you look at the former champions. Sean Strickland is a former champion. Israel Adesanya, a former champion too. Robert Whittaker, former champion. So you have 3 former champions. And then how many stars do you have? I think middleweight is one of the best in terms of stars. Like middleweight might be the best in terms of stars. Sean Strickland, big star, huge star. He knows how to talk. He's always on the news doing something, talking about something. Israel Adesanya, one of the biggest stars in the he is one of the biggest stars in the UFC, but also in like New Zealand, Australia, it's really big. Inside the ring and outside the ring. Even outside the ring, he's got a podcast. He's doing like reaction videos to Hamza Shemaev, one of the biggest stars in the Muslim world, in the Russian world, Dubai, Abu Dhabi. He's a big star, and even inside the octagon, like the way this guy actually fights, it's crazy. He doesn't the conservation of energy does not exist in his vocabulary. He's always going for the big slams, shooting the takedowns, talking to Dana. So yeah, 3 stars. Robert Wick, a big star in Australia, a big star in the UFC. So you got 4 stars. I'm not gonna call Nasruddin Imavo a star. Then you have Jade Cannonier, probably not gonna call him a star. I think you have Paulo Costa. I would call him a star. I think his fight style was pretty entertaining. He was kind of like a big star in Brazil as well. So 5. Then Shara Magomedov, I'm gonna call him a star. Shara is just his fighting style is one of the best. The guy's got one eye literally. He had a big hype even before he came to the UFC. He's only got like a couple of fights in the UFC. He's already like very popular in the UFC. And in the Muslim world, in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, he's a big star, massive star. Then you have Michel Pereira. I'm gonna call him a star as well. This guy's doing backflips inside the octagon. Very entertaining style. So middleweight has got a lot of star powers. They have 3 former champions as well. So that's where they're actually really shining. But I think where they're lacking is the people who are could potentially becoming a champion. I think Hamza Shemaev is a guy that I potentially see becoming a champion. And then Nasruddin Imavo, I can see him potentially becoming a champion stylistically. I don't see anyone else. I mean, Kyle Barello, he can potentially become it, but I just don't think he's gonna have the wrestling to actually be able to do that later. Other than that, Roman Delicev, Brendan Allen, I don't think so. Jack Hermanson, no. Anthony Hernandez, I can see a lot of talent here. I like his style as well. I think he might do good, but I don't see him becoming a champion. And Sharon Magomedov, there's a lot of hype. His fight style is amazing. I love him. I just don't see him becoming a champion. I think he's gonna get exposed by good wrestlers in the division. And Michel Pereira, no, we've already seen him losing so many times. So yeah, not a lot of people that I see becoming champions. Skill wise, I would say if you're looking at the top 5, Sean Strickland, he's good skill wise. Israel Adesanya, I think he's an amazing fighter, but I think he's pretty one dimensional. Hamza Shemaev is a good fighter. I think he's a very good fighter, but I have not seen him striking with like a high level striker, just standing on the ground. I'm gonna call his skill very high. I think his wrestling, his grappling, is just on a different level. He's got great power as well, but I think he might even have good striking. But I think because we have not seen him striking with like a high level striker, so I'm not gonna call him, because at the moment we're trying to do it for the comparison purposes. So relatively, he's not gonna be as, I'm not gonna consider his skill as good as, let's say, some of the high level light heavyweights. Let's say Islam Makhachev, or like if I'm comparing him to Ilya Taporia, because we have seen them in the other areas. So although I do think Hamza beats everyone in the weight class, I think even if he goes to light heavyweight, I think he beats everyone in the light heavyweight division. I think he becomes a champion over there too. But I just don't think pound for pound, skill wise, I don't think he's as good as, like, let's say, Islam Makhachev yet. He might become good. Robert Whittaker, skill wise, very good. Yeah, very very sort of like complete fighter, but I just don't think he's as good as some of the other guys in the weight classes that I'm going to be comparing him to, from, let's say, bantamweight weight class, or like lightweight. Imavo, I see, yeah, he's a good fighter. Yeah, so I would say skill wise, middleweight is definitely better than the top 5 is definitely better than flyweight and heavyweight and light heavyweight, but it's nowhere close to what bantamweight or like lightweight brings. And I'm gonna check how many fighters they have in the pound for pound. So middleweight has so you got Duplessis and you got Sean Strickland. So they've got 2 fighters in the pound for pound, which is alright. Okay, so this is number 5. Now, this is the hard part for me. So now we've got welterweight, lightweight, featherweight, and bantamweight, and this was really hard for me to actually consider now. So I am gonna say featherweight here, and it was really tight. I don't really mind if you can interchange it with. So I'm already gonna tell you. So I'm gonna say featherweight is number four, and I'm gonna say welterweight is number three. Now you can interchange it. I think I don't really mind. I wouldn't blame you if you put uh, featherweight over welterweight. But I'll tell you why I'm putting featherweight here. I think featherweight has a lot of potential. They have a lot of star power. So you have Alexander Volkanovski as a star. You have Max Holloway as a star. Diego Lopez, I'm going to call him a star. Yair Rodriguez, I'm going to call him a star. Brian Ortega, I'm going to call him a star. Brandon Arnold Allen, I'm going to call him a star. Josh Emmett, yeah, this guy was knocking people out left and right. I might call him like close to a star. Aljamain Sterling, big star. Bryce Mitchell, look, this guy, I would say featherweight probably has the most number of stars. Bryce Mitchell, I'm gonna call Bryce Mitchell a star as well. He might not have the best style in the. I mean, he had recently had a very nice knockout. He might not have the best style in the octagon, but you're gonna love him because Bryce Mitchell is always on the news. He's talking about something. He's on the podcast. He's rapping. Then Danny is kind of a name as well. Edson Barboza, man, this guy is one of the best knockouts. Yeah, Yair Rodriguez, who fights better than more fun than Yair Rodriguez, the spinning elbow knockout on Korean Zombie. Uh how many former champions did they have? Alexander Volkanovski, former champion, Max Holloway, former champion, two former champions. So I think, well, when it comes to comparison, they're gonna lack a bit in the former champions, and uh they're gonna lack a bit in the amount of people that I think can potentially become champion. So if I look at the featherweight division, I can only see one guy, one or two guys who could actually become champions. I can probably see Diego Lopez become the champion, although I do think it's going to be very hard stylistically for Diego Lopez to actually become the champion. But because he's been doing very well, he's been on like a 5 or 6 fight winning streak. His style is also kind of very. It's hard to expose that style because he's good striker, brawler, and then he's got very decent, very good Brazilian jiu-jitsu, actually very dangerous. And then Moser Avlo, I would say, one of the biggest talents. I think that's where I think that they don't have as many people of the potential of becoming a champion as compared to some of the other weight classes. And I don't see anyone else. I mean, Arnold Allen, I don't see him becoming a champion actually. And yeah, no one else. I don't think anyone else becomes a champion. And then we're gonna check the I think for featherweight, the skill level is really high. So when I compared previously the featherweight people, so like the top guys, like Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway, Diego Lopez, almost Avloev or Yair Rodriguez, I think all of them are like complete fighters. Like Volkanovski, very close to being a complete fighter. Max Holloway, Max Holloway could be one dimensional one time, but even he's like a hard guy to take down. Then Diego Lopez, kind of like a complete fighter. Movsar Evlo are one of the best examples of being a complete fighter. Other than actually finishing the fights, he does not have like the best finishing ability, but other than that, I think even his striking is pretty crisp. Like he's a very hard guy to actually get hit. And then Yair Rodriguez probably lacks a bit of wrestling, but other than that, he's pretty good. So featherweight, I think skill wise, very good. Good. Maybe not as good as like bantamweight, but I just think they don't have a lot of people actually having the potential to become a champion. They could be like at the like Alexander Volkanovski obviously can become a champion, but I just think that he is past his best, he's past his prime. Max Holloway, I don't see him becoming a champion again. I'm gonna check how many people they have in the pound for pound. So they have Alexander Volkanovski in pound for pound, then they have Max Holloway in pound for pound. So featherweight has two people in pound for pound, which is, and then they have Ilya Topuria. So yeah, very high in pound for pound. So that's why I don't really mind if you put it over welterweight, but I'm gonna put welterweight above featherweight. And okay, so let's count the number of champions welterweight has. So they've got Leon Edwards is a former champion. You got Kamaru Usman is a former champion. Then you have okay, so you only, I'm gonna count Colby Covington a former champion as well because he was an interim champion. So three former champions. And how many stars do they have? So yeah, I have Shavkat Rakhmonov. I'm gonna call him a star. Leon Edwards, Rocky Edwards. He was a star in Britain. Kamaru Usman was a big, yeah, like he's doing his pound for pound podcast as well. Big star three. Jack Della Maddalena, I'm gonna call him a star too. Like this guy, people love Jack, and even his fighting style is just amazing. He's probably one of the best boxers in the UFC four. Sean Brady, I don't know, I might call him like a star. Joaquin Buckley, the way this guy's fighting and the way that this guy's getting the knockouts, that spin, the back kick knockout, and the Wonder Boy knockout, amazing five. So you have a Machado Gary, that's six. Machado Gary's a star, guys. Come on, he's always on the news. Gilbert Burns is a star, seven. Colby Covington, come on, guys. Colby Covington is always talking trash. Downtown Straight Fighter, eight. Not Jeff O'Neill, he's probably the best gatekeeper. Stephen Thompson, he's a star, nine. And then Michael Morales, no, I'm not gonna call him a star. Carlos Prodes, the thing is, with welterweight, even the prospects, like the guys that I could see becoming champions, they are such popular guys, and the way they're getting the finishes, like Carlos Prodes, you can probably call him a star. Vincente Luque is a star. Michael Venom. So I can probably see like 11 stars. But sorry guys, I was wrong about the middleweight when I said middleweight might have the most stars. I would say welterweight probably has the most stars. Like out of like the top 15 guys, I can probably see like 11 guys being like good stars, very good stars. Yeah, high level stars. And then so that's also one of the reasons why I put it over featherweight, because I thought like featherweight, if you go at the bottom, they were lacking a bit of star power. And also I would say I mean even featherweight has like pretty good star power, but I would say welterweight just kind of like shines over featherweight. And then you have like um you have two former champions. But then I was looking at the skill of welterweight. I was like, if you're looking at the skill of the top five people, the skill is pretty good. Like Leon Edwards, skill wise, he's pretty good. Like he's more like a prominently a striker, but he can grapple. Then you have Shavkat Rakhmonov, I would say one of the most complete fighters. Not the best at anything, but he's a pretty decent, very good striker. Like he can throw spinning kicks, he can do almost everything, and then he can shoot wrestling takedowns. Grappling is pretty strong as well. Then Kamaru Usman, skill wise, very good fighter. He knows how to mix his stuff. Jack Della Maddalena, maybe not the best overall skill wise, but he has the best boxing in UFC, yeah, definitely in this weight class, but also one of the best boxing in the UFC. And then Sean Brady is he's improving his striking, his grappling is top notch. So I would say welterweight scale wise, these guys are pretty high. They're pretty high. The only reason I'm actually putting them down beneath lightweight is that I think lightweight just has like lightweight and featherweight. They have more former champions. Welterweight does not have the same number of like former champions. They only have two former champions, and also I think, with skill wise, I think those weight classes actually probably like with lightweight. I think it might be very close with the welterweight in skill wise, but I think bantamweight shines everybody skill wise. Their skills are like very high level, and also they have a lot of former champions. So now I look at the people, number of people in welterweight who are actually in the top 15. So you have Bilal Muhammad in the top 15 pound for pound. Then you have Leon Edwards. So they have two people in the pound for pound. Okay, then we're gonna move to how many people do I see becoming champions? Welterweight actually see Shafat Rakhmonov, actually one of the examples that I can see becoming champion. Jack Della Maddalena, I can see him becoming a champion. Sean Brady again, I see Sean Brady becoming a champion too. I think these are the guys that can potentially become champion. Other than that, I mean, Carlos Paredes. Oh my man, Carlos Paredes. The way he's knocking people out, he's just very like low in the ranks at the moment. But I think the way he's knocking people out, we might need like one good win, one like grappler against him. Just do like a credibility check. If he can like defend the takedowns and actually knock that guy out to actually prove his validity even more. So they might actually have like three to four people who can actually potentially become champions. So I rate welterweight pretty high, and I wouldn't be mad if you put welterweight above lightweight actually. So with featherweight, welterweight, and lightweight, I was pretty confused because those divisions were pretty close. I had to make a decision based on like I had to compare like really minute differences and see if you're looking at like the top five welterweights, would they be able to beat top five lightweights skill wise? I think Arman Sarikin is just so good skill wise. His complete fighter, Charles Oliveira, is so complete. Then Justin Gaethje is lacking a bit of grappling, but he's got a wrestling background. Then Dustin Poirier is kind of a complete fighter, and then Max Holloway maybe lacking a bit of grappling. Yeah, if you're looking at the top fives, I think skill wise they're pretty similar, but I think the lightweight top five, they've been fighting for like a long, long time. Time I would say, like some of them they become like a lifelong stars, I would say, and they're more former champions as well. So if you're going to lightweight, they're more former champions, and they're more like lifelong stars. And if you go a bit bottom in the division, I think they have more guys who have fought in like the other organizations as well. Although I'm not going to count them as former champions, but they were very established champions in some of the other organizations. Let's say Michael Chandler or like Matthias Gamrot. They're very prominent champions. So this is one of the reasons that I actually choose lightweight over welterweight, and also one of the reasons that there's a lot of lightweights in the pound for pound. So if you go to pound for pound, it's Makachev one. Then you have Max Holloway. I'm going to count him as the lightweight as well, and then you have Charles Oliveira. So you have three lightweights as the in pound for pound. But yeah, guys, just look at the former champions. So you have Charles Oliveira, former champion; Justin Gaethje, former champion; Dustin Poirier, former champion. Three. Max Holloway, former champion. That's four. And then you can. I'm not counting Michael Chandler as former champion, but he was a very established champion in another organization, Bellator, and Gamrot was a champion somewhere else. And if you're looking at the stars, Arman Tsarukyan star, Charles Oliveira star, Justin Gaethje star, Dustin Poirier star, Max Holloway star, Dan Hooker big star. Come on, guys. Dan Hooker's fighting style is one of the best. He's pretty popular in New Zealand. Then Michael Chandler has to be one of the biggest stars, cut the best promos. Gamrod, I'm not calling him a star, but again, he was a very established champion in another weight class, in another organization. Benil, very high level fighter, so that matters as well. Skill wise, because the thing about the lightweight division is, if you even if you go like lower down the division, the skill of the people is really high. Like if you look at the top 10, Renato Moicano, he's a big star. Like this guy makes political comments that gets everybody's attention. Then Rafael Fiziev, the way he fights, one of the biggest stars, right? Benoit Sante is a very entertaining guy. Maybe not the star in terms of like doesn't talk a lot of trash, but fighting style is pretty fun. Paddy Pimblett, big star. Jalen Turner, the way he fights is amazing. Joel Alvarez, very tall guy for the weight class. I mean, lightweight, I just don't see any weak links, to be honest. I can start from number 15 to number 1. And I could say lightweight has the only reason I'm going to put bantamweight over lightweight is because of the former champions. I think bantamweight has more former champions. And if I look at like the top 5 people, I think bantamweight has probably skill wise the best top 5 people. I don't think any weight class has the same sort of skill as bantamweight. And that's not me overrating bantamweight. I think bantamweight is just so good. But if I look at just the top, if I look at the 15, I don't think any division has like top 15 as like lightweight in terms of like the established names. Like every person is kind of a star. So I rate lightweight pretty high. I think they got 3 guys in the pound for pound as well. So I with the first 4 divisions, the top 4 divisions, it was really hard for me. So it was between bantamweight, lightweight, featherweight, and welterweight. In the past, I used to rate lightweight as the top division, as the best division in UFC. But when I compare it to bantamweight, I just don't see a lot of lightweight actually having the potential to actually become a champion. So if you're looking at the potential right now, Arman Tsarukyan, I see him becoming a champion. I think he's a very talented guy. The other guys are big stars, but I think they have passed the. They're mostly looking for like the BMF fights. So let's say the money fights, so like the fame fights. They're not looking to become the champion. Like Dan Hooker, big star, right? But I just don't think he's looking to become the champion. I don't think he's following the title picture. I think he's going for fights like Michael Chandler, or he's gonna get fights like Justin Gaethje or Dustin Poirier. Then Michael Chandler, same story. He's not looking to get the title. He's gonna have the entertainment fights, right? Gamrod, I think Gamrod might actually be looking for the title, but I think he's too old for the weight. He's probably like 36, 37. So he's probably it's gonna be difficult for him to get the title. I think he might just be looking for like the good fights as well. But Neil Darush, again, yeah. So I see a lot of people who have actually kind of like past their prime, like 36, 37. Very good fighters, still like one of the best fighters. But they're not looking to get the title. They're not, or they will potentially not get the title. They might be looking to make another run, but they would potentially not get the title. Um, and so I don't see Paddy becoming the champion. I don't see Bennett and Dance becoming a champion. Rafael Fiziev is such a great fighter. I think he's just in a different, very difficult weight class. I don't see him becoming the champion. Jalen Turner, there was a time when I was big on Jalen Turner. I was like, this guy will actually become the champion. He's such a big guy for the weight class. Well, I think he's probably like 6'5". I don't even know how he cuts that much weight. Joel Alvarez, I think very talented. I just don't see him becoming a champion. I think the only guy that can potentially become a champion in the lightweight division is Arman Sariki, unless you have Ilia Topuria moving up and try to become the champion. And that also goes to show that how good the champion is. Islam Makhachev is such a complete fighter. I think he's the best fighter in the UFC right now, skill wise. So I just don't see anyone beating Islam Makhachev. So that's the only reason I'm putting lightweight beneath bantamweight, because I think in bantamweight there's a lot of people who actually have the potential to become. Uh, I mean, even in lightweight, there's not a lot of people. Sorry, even in bantamweight, there's not a lot of people. I think their skill is really high. So if and the former champions. Okay, this is the main point, guys. The former champions: Sean O'Malley, former champion; Umar Nurmagomedov, Peter Yan, former champion; Corey, Davison Figueredo, former champion. Three former champions, right? Henry Cejudo, that's former champion. Four former champions, and then you have Jose Aldo, former champions. And when we talk about the former champions, they're pretty established for former champions as well. Like Davison Figueredo, flyweight. Some people consider him one of the best flyweight of, probably not all the time because that's Demetrius Johnson, but he was pretty high in the ranks. Henry Cejudo was pretty high in flyweight. Then you had Jose Aldo was one of the best featherweight of all time. So the star power that this division has is pretty good. Although I do think that bantamweight lacks a lot of star power at the bottom. Like I wouldn't be mad if you actually put lightweight over bantamweight, because if you look at the bantamweight division, so Sean O'Malley star, Umar Nurmagomedov, I'm gonna call him a star because he's from the Khabib camp. Everybody knows him. His fighting style is really fun as well. Peter Yan star, Corey Sandhagen, can call him a star. Davison Figueredo star, Marlon Vera, he can be boring sometimes, but he's a star in Mexico. Henry Cejudo star. He's got a big podcast. He's talking crazy shit against everyone. Song Yadong, fun style, but I won't call him a star. He hasn't done much. Mario Batista, boring. No, Jose Aldo is a star. So yeah, if you look at the people beneath that, so like Kyler Phillips, Alderman Zahabi, Marcus McGee, Monta Jackson, maybe, yeah, but it's not a star at the moment. So I think that's where they're lacking. They're lacking a bit of like star power. But if you're looking at the people who can potentially become a champion, I can see Montel Jackson actually doing very good, although he has to prove a lot. We've seen his striking. I think he's got one of the best striking. I can see Song Yadong actually becoming a champion. I think it might be like an unpopular opinion. People might not agree with it after the Corey Sandhagen fight. But I think he was so early in his career that he got Corey Sandhagen. I think he's just improving. I think he's just gonna get better. And I see a lot of potential in him, to be honest. I think his takedown defense is alright. His wrestling is not that bad, and also I would say striking is very tight. I could potentially see him becoming a champion. And then I'm pretty high on Corey Sandhagen as well. So I think the potential of people to become a champion is really high in this division. So they have a lot of former champions plus the people who can actually potentially become a champion. Like Corey Sandhagen, I think he's still fighting for the title. I think he's gonna fight for the title. I think he potentially become the champion as well. Peter Yan, I know Yan lost, but I think Yan is one of the best fighters, and I think Yan can potentially make another run. He's not washed up. He's still very high level. Umar Nurmagomedov, I think he has a great chance. I think he actually beats Murad, become the champion. And even if I'm looking at the skill level of bantamweight, so if I'm looking at the skill level of top five, Sean O'Malley, I think very high skill level. People don't rate his takedown defense high. Okay, if you get his legs, you can probably get the takedown, but I think it's very hard to get O'Malley's legs because of his footwork. That also counts as a takedown defense. Just coming in, going out, exiting. I think O'Malley is a high level fighter. Umar Nurmagomedov, I think one of the most complete fighters in the UFC, one of the best fighters in the UFC. Best take, really good takedowns. If you look at his double legs, the way this guy finishes takedowns, one of the best. And also his jiu-jitsu, he's got nice finishes. His striking is amazing, beautiful. Not just the punches, but also the kicks. This guy kicks like he jabs. Peter Yan, one of the best strikers, guys. If you have not watched MMA, if you want to get into MMA, Peter Yan is the guy you need to watch. To be honest, if you're trying to get really good at MMA, Peter Yan, the way this guy sets up, even the takedowns that he sets up, they're very technical with the strikes. Corey Sanhagen, great striker, one of the best strikers. Also improved his grappling a lot now. His takedowns are getting really bad. Davison Figueredo again. So I think if I Davison Figueredo is again a complete fighter. If I look at Bantamweight, other than O'Malley, even O'Malley I consider like he could do almost everything. But other than O'Malley, I think everybody else in the top five they could just do everything. Like Omar, complete fighter. Peter Yan, complete fighter. Corey Sanhagen, kind of complete fighter. Davison Figueredo, complete fighter. I would say with Corey Sanigo, you would lean a little bit towards striking, and O'Malley, you would lean a bit towards striking, but I think all of them can just do everything. So that's one of the reasons that I put Bantamweight at the top position. Although, yeah, and they have two people in the pound for pound. So they have Mirab and O'Malley in the pound for pound. So guys, just let me know if you agree with my criteria. If you agree with my ranking, I think bantamweight is the best division. I think lightweight is the second, welterweight is the third, featherweight is the fourth. Then you have middleweight at five. Then you have light heavyweight at six. Then you have flyweight at seven, and then you have heavyweight at eight.